Salam, salam, salam. Hello and welcome to TABILA Podcast. I am Dr. Mina and today's episode is deeply personal. بیست بیست و شش قطع فکردت مبارک ود نور ماشند هفته یکم ینوار فکرت ما تبریکنم تبیلاگون از موجود تمرنین و روچنه نور پادکست در باره تبیلا و بشه با پرینسیپو من پادکستش تمر نقل کنم چی جاتوز خوی کنم من نقل تمر چی دوست کریف سیو لب من دورم از lapnai met tak aridin chat lapnest amo yudun yabure maul pechtet lövet toiga podcast kae az deumos lapezur menador ustash nor barnoma talevin nor anglisete the living show but today is not a show nor am disga show nesta Jam вообще по принципам сол целевину узом чирчучик ме в соланд. Табилара в сол и мама может мете бая чорчубаю хоцанжавам. Обычно профессионален андеска ясти дили узом вообще ик ме солан чирчучане. Ик десга хаста монда ос хоис сакено. Хаста монда غمگین نه تا خسته مونده دی که مدام ترمه کشمکش جایون میوغلا مملکتین انسالیف اچه ثوی کم کورت های ورسا نسویده نه برای ده نور تا در بورای تبیلا نقل کنم یم تبیلا پادکست ما مرد دو سول بعد سلیفین ارچه خوونه تسانقیت ما من دورم استما دوسی که توقت کنه تو زود سانق جیسم تر انگلیسه و سر انگلیسی نگجیسم خب بعد واز انگلیسی دمت دوست کرد خو گیر کنه خب باولی باشتر باشتر خو نه و نگجیسم اینه تو دسر نهست خویدی نورمو نسترین سوز از 26 دزگاه خوبتم خور وعده داد یکی از وعده این ار وقت منسترین سوز تسود و سباد پادکست کنم أروح منسترين باشان دنافود مت ماشان يست إدمس غلاين تربية مت إيشيز مال قرور كه إيشيز مال باشان سيدي أشث ميكروفون ترتو بروث مايو ذا جناي شوكتا ترچيستات لود دي خمنيفو إكو غابيو إكو نمود تابع بخیرای و بینستراینه یا هم خوبستا بینستراین کهت هم یگا ودم بینستراین کهت وزک دیف سوخت تلوینو فکرین مز بنظر انجا اوکی تبیلا و سش انگلیسی تمام نقل کنم خوبات تر خوگنونه نگجیسم ارچه انگلیسی خوگنونه تفهم زور تمید صوف نوزیون تبیلاگون دنالو میدی تمید بولو دیو تمید پاس دیو تمید زور ده اتمانه دی مروسون دیک دم مجرو پتاو دو ارچاید سنا فهمت انگلیسی ته با هیچ وجه از خویخ نکنم پاس ده دو با هیچ وجه اچاف از نکنم خویخ دی تما خو پاس حس کنید تمید مسمون نوزون ارچای خوونونه مسنا فهم مثال دی ارچای مجاوی نردید یک از و جوی مکونه بدخونه مرسوید از طرف دریوز دمانه میدی بدخشونه توجیکستان این تولد در چهت است یا غریبنده در تمام جهان تمتسوید مپروند ککراس خریطه جهان خوبنونه با تمرواز منه که اختت خوی کنید یا روست خوی کنید یا انگلیست دلوم خیلی مجروز ازم ات ایکی دثو مثل دا اغنین ای کلمه از گدوده زبونم ماشتا ست اکتسکا نقطه تاریخند ماشتا شخو گدوده زبون ماشند ارالشه تدلیوین ارالشه زیو ماشند تسویدن خوهنون روس انگلیس ارد درون انگلیس خوهنون یگزه ورد درون خلاصه نو من مجروتا اسکنیت دی 2026 یگا نمود در تبیلات خوی کنم دم ویدیو دی بدون تمام تلوینو وزمنه زمانان روزن ماشر تساتش تمام مشکلات کم بغله ایمیگراسیون سیستماین نوسویخی جاونا نتساتیست نو اورمی تمام جاون تیز environmental انگلیسی تلوین نه یودن چس زمین جنبه یمن چس تلوین ولکان یودن فوق کاثی کازدیو ماش تابنام الاو بنام الاو نخنام الاو اسکوستن انتلکت قطعت با تمام دیت مستزم اکوام روی ایدی با تمام بدونه که در چیستا سود ماشند ماش تلوینو ماش دیویز ادو روستیوم لید ماش تلوینو چیختو تر پرو اد و اکا نواردی مودم خوگنینه تلویدو انگلیسی تتاید سود aggressively positive انه بو فشور سو فشور ووتا تلوين بخير تavus ترد جسم ووتا خونستراين وخونسترويتا اك يا يزرا مسول فوكا جو تير تفت فوكا جو غندا تفت فوكا جو بيزي بزور تفت غمت تفت غصة تفت فوكا ثقا استوو خكرم اكا ين نقطة زرعي خوبه من يستو ين نقطة زرعي خوشه من یستو یه نقطه ذره امید من یستو انه بعد ارخو پودکاست مرجوزت از دیو کاپیندم خوبتم خورجوزت دوش یه نقطه ذره دی تلوینوی که نیتت امید تر اوینده تسوید استا یک اکوام نقطه قطزم خوی که ازوام نقطه تسر کنم گل بوریچ کدو یه ماش 2026 نیت موند دی تر پادکست اوینده قوت خورده زمت دوستیک منسترین سوز دودد فوکت اورم او سویخی نقطه داجه یه سوات منسترین سوز دود اوسته که ازوام نقطه بعد سر کنم تلوین پادکست دونجاد دو سولند ام باشنده زور مورود لپ زور وزمنه ود دی ترانگوم برداشته چود دیفتش استمر نقل کنم اما 2026 دیویز we have a motto to stay aggressively positive انگلیسی تیدسکا مارش دیویز 2026 از تابیلاگونرد از ما تابیلاگونرد اکا یه ذره یه نقطه اکامس خوبیت خوشیت اورومت صداکیخ تیدوام تخو متوام تخو خوانجاوام خو یو پیوام تخو تابیلا دادم خو یو کازوام انتوام نقطه سر کنم با هیچ وجه خو ارزویت خو امید بوید ایچر مادک بواره اوینده باشان سود باشان نسود یو برداشته از مام زندگی باید من برداشته کنم مام قینم زازم مسئولیت خود زازم مام وزمنم زازم مام خوشم زازم از سیتواسیین ترانگ بوفت بیدیت مته what's the best option انگلیسی تدلیوین از دند خواسته وادم چیز دموگابی فهمته نه دنجات ماش معلومش کالته شخصا از نگاه تابیلا از نقل کنم یه چردت خو فکر مته زربین نکنم اما یه نمود دیدگاه از نگاه تبیلا حاضر تبیلا دو سولن بابشه چیرچوچ مد مناسطره نرسو زکات تبیلا دو سولن تبیلا پادکاست دا اوسش انگلیسیت ملیم خوبات خوف نوینت ملیم سلوینو خو نمود تتوو ملیم آشم که سخراyak یک روک ار تبیلا. Okay, I am going to speak in English. What is TABILA Podcast for 2 years and impact of the podcast. In just 2 years, TABILA has produced a solo production, and the podcast has tackled the most complex and pressing issues facing our communities, from preserving indigenous language, okay, the language that I speak, and it comes from grandparents, parents, and the language that I used in my childhood up until now, 2026, in TABILA Studio, to exploring mental health, digital ethics, gender, and resilience. We have created a space where indigenous knowledge meets modern life challenges. Is this what I wanted to achieve? Yes. I wanted to bring indigenous language that I speak, and it comes to me from grandparents, and many inhabitants of that region speak that particular language, to carry forward. And then to tie that or to add to it a current issues, which is mental health issues, digital ethics, hate speech, cyberbullying, gender, position of a woman and man, resilience, you name it. We talked about it. And I do feel absolute proud to not to give up. That was just like, wow. When I wrote this section, I was like, this was the structure or the thought that came to me. And wow, with 2 years, I stayed to that line and didn't divert or didn't just, deviate to right or left or to whatever you call it, didn't deviate from exactly what I wanted to achieve, and I stayed on it. Wow, that's a very proud moment. And our listeners, I put a name for them. TABILAGON are now among the most informed, critically aware, and culturally grounded community members. Every episode is carefully crafted. Exactly. Every episode that I wrote, and I wrote it solo, I wrote it at night, it's absolute crafted to that particular environment, mood, what I wanted to create and how I wanted to write. And this is exactly how it used this word. Every episode is carefully crafted to preserve and modernize oral heritage without diluting its dignity. That's very important, right? And I kept saying that Shughni language is not just a cussing word. It's just not a word that, you just be rebellious. It's not a street word. It's not a street language, but we have to bring it to the level of modernize, means like we recorded that language, right? And then bring a oral heritage, that language that preserved or remain with us, putting it, with a dignity. Right? That's a very important section. The second one is provide culturally intelligible tools for mental health and trauma resilience, which extensively in every paragraph, episodes here and there, I did throw an idea of mental health. I did throw an idea of, can we keep a balance? Can we keep it? This is what our ancestor, this is what has your mom talked about. This is what, leaders, spiritual leaders talk. And I thought I did extensive work on writing each episodes and just, providing academic literature to it so it has a much solid ground rather than just anecdotal narrative stories. Also, I addressed the digital literacy and online harm in marginalized communities, which I did because I was a shield. I was attacked and I was belittled. People were writing to me or saying something, and I used a lot of online tools to minimize or just restrict the comments in my whatever social platforms that I used, just to understand. And I knew it that 2 years ago, bringing a podcast in Shughni language will be tilted towards more political rather than just understanding that a language solo in itself is it's in itself as a heritage symbol, and we need to preserve that language rather than putting me into words of more political or into words of as if I want to bring that particular podcast into some sense of, okay, here I want to just, do some rebellious approaches, which was not correct. No, that was not correct. And then reframing the gender, leadership, ethical responsibility through indigenous values. Also promote meaningful storytelling as a moral compass. So all of these 5 elements, which is, I was like, wow. Like I literally wow my own self of how much work each episode is crafted and how much each episode carefully thought through, rather than just, randomly talk about any issues that comes up, or a social media presence becomes like somebody, diverts you from your own mission statement. As a TABILA podcast, that was my aim. And I'm so delighted that I didn't go into those, talk about random, talk as you talk, nonsense talk, No, I stayed on my line and I stayed exactly what I wanted to achieve, or potentially thought that these are the areas that I need to tackle. And I think TABILA is absolutely unique podcast, what we talked about and how we produced it. It's a very important how we produced it, okay? Given that I had no idea, perhaps a little bit of idea of, production, meaning like I did a couple of episodes in Abu Dhabi to do a little bit of work on a camera. But podcast, 0, right? Entirely solo produced, ensuring authenticity and vision. Yes, I would like to record this. This is on a records from TABILA production. And how we produced it, I produced it a solo production. And I would like to confirm this. It is a solo production house. Right. Solo means alone. I produced it, everything from the start of a writing, crafting it, scripting it, bringing to the recording, recording it, adjusting it, editing, blah, blah, blah. So all of it, it's a solo production. Tackling sensitive and challenging topic that others shy away from. Yes, the tone, the way how I wanted to present each issues, sometimes I wanted to speak Shughni, sometimes I wanted to speak English, sometimes I just used it as it is, mixed up with some Russian expressions, and I was like, no way I'm going to shy away from it. Bridging ancient wisdom with modern realities, making making indigenous knowledge, I'm sorry for my indigenous knowledge actionable today. God. Well, you know why it happens? You know why that happens when you tongue twist, in English? Because on the same time as I record for TABILA Podcast, my mind goes into 3 other languages, Russian language and Shughni language. So it's kind of my tongue twist. But anyway, so making indigenous knowledge actionable today, or making indigenous knowledge as TABILA, making Shughni knowledge to say that I raised the bar. And we are so proud. I am so proud and thrilled that I did not give up. Whatever I wanted to achieve, perhaps I wanted just to have 10 episodes, but it just boosted up to so many episodes, really like total of 70 episodes per 1 hour. And I think it's tremendous success that we've done and we've achieved with TABILA Podcast. This is all in English. I'm going to speak in Shughni. Worry not. But back to English. So I'm just like, you know what? I am so proud that we did it. A total cost, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the cost, and I'll bring it Shughni language. The total cost of a TABILA podcast is equal, it's actually 91 to 95,000, anywhere from the cost of solo production. How about that? Because as I was producing this TABILA podcast with 70 episodes aired and perhaps like 10 plus-ish episode I did not release because they were sensitive, information were not ready. I thought they're not ready. I just listened to them a couple of times. I'm going to talk about them later on. But what I want to bring to attention those who know English, Shughni speakers, but know English, or English speakers, whoever listens, total like covering, like being a solo production of this indigenous tribal language of Shughni and then Bartangi, and sometimes I use English and sometimes I keep it as is. In professional terms, if I had a team, my team would be a host, a narrator. Somebody just comes to the studio and just narrates exactly what's written in the script. A script writer or researcher. Somebody will research that, reference, academic, where did you use a book from? Why are you saying this? So we call it script writer and researcher, right? And then audio engineer, editor, like somebody who will fix up all the gadgets around me in this production, how in a studio that I do. So basically it calls like audio engineering, like how my voice is, where my pitch is, am I loud, am I soft, how am I going to speak, and then sound designer, mixer, for God's sake, how do I mix, whatever, the technical terms, like for all the studio guys who work in a podcast production, they know what is sound engineer, mixer is. Project manager, how to manage my project, when to record, when to write an email, book this podcast room. Studio ones, how to manage my entire project of TABILA. Wow. And then publisher, social media manager, when I publish, how I publish, where I publish, how many I publish, descriptions of each of the social platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Telegram, whatever you name it. Thanks God I didn't have a TikTok. I think I would be just exhausted. And then cultural language expert. Imagine a 7 people work, 7 professionals working in collaboration for 2 years would cost anywhere from 81,000 to 95,000. And that's a conservative estimate. I totally agree. That's a very conservative estimate, not counting the priceless value of preserving an endangered language or giving people who listen from indigenous cultures, communities, people who know this language, right? And marginalized communities, a platform to be seen and heard. What's the worth of TABILA? Well, according to me, TABILA worth in professional terms, approximately from not 81,000, I think it's a 92,000 to 95,000 US dollars worth that I have put my energy, my time, my efforts, my intentions into TABILA Podcast for 2 years. That's a very pretty expensive podcast, I must say. One person standing alone, delivering what normally requires a small team with expertise in storytelling, audio production, research, social media, culture preservation. And ask yourself, how much is culture, language, and empowerment worth? If it would be professional production, the financial value alone is that, above $82,000 US. And the social and cultural values, how much is the social or cultural values that you speak that language as a female, a solo production, facing all the challenges, with the good, with bad, with ugly, everything total together, give the value. Tell me, how much is the price of a social and cultural values? Just give me. What is it? Really? So TABILA Podcast is a very unique. I proved it. We proved that it's a very unique, tailored podcast with nonstop over 2 years. And I think it's beyond the reach of ordinary, projects. Like ordinary projects, I'm going to talk about it later on, but let me switch to Shughni. I think you guys got bored when I started like English, and then blah, 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 blah. Now I'm going to switch, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to switch to Shughni language.
بلنکو سفانم نیمه دنیا مره ها دست تجیر مره از تخت سلیمان بره ها در جوانین من اومد مزار گل رنگ ده شکست خد سک چخمه این فنه دا خد مره ها به حیات با میر دا نام قبول با میر دا جان قبول با میر دا خطر نیاز با میر دا خطر نیاز با میر آسمان قبول با میر آسمان قبول یاد خوهنان سکنم چشمه ناصر دمقی داری خانم خانومد بلبل خوشخان تجریر اگه بردم سلوان در گیل مادک ما بیا داو خانم خانومد لال بدخشان مارثیم با میر دا نام قبول با میر دا جان قبول با میر دا خطر نیاز با میر دا خطر نیاز با میر آسمان قبول با میر آسمان قبول
ازم انگلیسی فقط نقل چیجا تبیلا یم پادکست سرنگین ماشم دو سوران چیر چوج اتوستش تلوین خوونونت و مسملوی و بشیک میفسوخ نمود پادکستینی ماست چیجا در کورنه و دم خورساول دی دوخر سول که اتوزم دو سولند تلوین خلوصا